Welcome to the Nurture Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Denise Cagan, president of the DCA Virtual Business Support. At DCA, we believe in small businesses and the families they support. Learn more at dcavirtual.com. Today's episode is all about fulfillment. If you've ever wondered about starting an e-commerce business or have one currently, this is the episode you'll want to listen to. Welcome to the show, Irina. I'm going to get this. Podubnaya.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to pat my back on that.
Yes, my surname is really a doozy because I always introduce myself like Irina P. Bivdot. That's all. You don't have to you don't have to pronounce it. So
and that's very kind and gracious of you to do that as well.
Yes. So that's just the unfortunate truth of having a surname as long as mine. So thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm really glad to be here on the Nurture Small Businesses podcast.
I appreciate it. So, Irina, I just want to talk to you a little bit about your product, which is TrackMage. But before we get into TrackMage, you have, some interesting background where, you were living in China and doing some operational development. Can you talk to me a little bit about that first?
Yeah, sure. So when I was young and really adventurous, at some point I just left the office and moved to China with my husband, and we started a business there. So we were shipping the products to different businesses all over the world. We were their supplier, so to say, and we were actually communicating with a lot of Chinese suppliers. So we were buying the goods from them and then shipping to our customers who were actually selling those goods to their customers through their stores. So we were like this back-end processing fulfillment center where we had to deal with all those supply chain issues for the customers. Yeah.
So you were a fulfillment center, not like a 3PL.
Yes, we were a fulfillment center. You could say that it's closer to third-party logistics in that case, because when we were shipping the batches like all together to the customer, so that just clarifies us that can be a 3PL. Yeah, but sometimes we had to ship the goods directly to the customers, so that was the fulfillment side.
Okay, so how long did you do this?
For 2.5 years. Actually, we never learned Chinese during the stay. So it was mainly communicating through auto translations from messengers, because all the Chinese people, they have messengers, and for just purchasing the goods, it was enough. So we had this enormous infrastructure in the backend, the Alibaba, the one, and we were communicating with suppliers through that. But from mainland China, that's totally different from the one that you have on the Alibaba.com. This is a different facet of the same suppliers.
Gotcha. Okay. So that would make me extremely nervous moving to a country where I didn't speak the language and I couldn't communicate to people, and then launching a business and relying on somebody who's not necessarily invested in my business to tell me what's going on.
Well, what do you mean by relying on someone?
The messengers, the people who are translating.
Oh, well, actually, I meant literal messengers, the messenger app. So I meant literally like Google Translate or Baidu Translate. That was our main means of communication. I was literally just translating like back and forth, and with my mobile phone as well. Whenever we had a question on the street, we literally just typed it in like in English and like showed to the nearest bypasser, and the person just like read, then typed the answer. We had to understand, okay. Yeah, sometimes that resulted in some major miscommunications. At some point, we were trying to negotiate with a supplier, and he thought that we were trying to sell him some marketing materials. That's how, how messed up the translation was. We literally.
Yeah. And that's to my point. Though I did misunderstand the type of messenger, but yes, Google Translate is not always accurate. So that would still make me nervous.
That's why I had to learn the Chinese version of English. For example, if you want to ask a question do you have the goods? You ask something like this: you have, no have goods, that's the Chinese version of this question.
Okay. Okay, so it's like learning a dialect.
Almost like that, yes. Or maybe just learning some patterns. How do you formulate the sentences so that the translation is accurate in the language, even though I don't know how to say it in Chinese. So that's all.
Now, talk to me a little bit about this company. I mean, you talked about executing Lean Six Sigma. We
Yeah.
haven't talked about that a lot on this podcast. So tell us a little bit about that. I'm familiar with quality systems, so I do know what it is, but I'd like to
Yeah.
share that with our
So
listeners.
okay, definitely. So after that business, like actually ended its life, like in 2.5 years, like we had to close it because it wasn't very profitable, and we moved back to Bulgaria, and then like I started working online, and that's when I discovered some of the interesting frameworks and Lean Six Sigma in particular. Because Lean Six Sigma is a very, I would say, very robust system that can help you fine-tune your business if you have repeatable and standardized processes. So it's not very good for creative type of businesses where you have to come up with like some kind of marketing materials, or if you want to code custom tools or whatever else can be custom, like text, maybe like copywriting. For copywriting, probably it's not going to work that well. So the idea is Lean Six Sigma is fitting for those businesses where you do deal with processes that are repeatable and standardized. So e-commerce businesses, they have both sides. So they need the creative marketing side to get sales. And they do have the standardized supply chain management and like packing the goods, shipping the goods, and all that. So Lean Six Sigma is probably best applied to that like hardware part, or like how do we call it, like backend side of e-commerce business. So Lean Six Sigma has the framework, the DMAIC process. So like the define, measure, implement, then control. Oh, and analyze, of course. I forgot to analyze in the middle. So with Lean Six Sigma, what you get is once you start inspecting your process, you understand which parts of the process result into some errors or loops. So, for example, when you are packing the goods, you sometimes like put the goods in the wrong package, and they get shipped to a different country. That's a typical defect that can be classified and identified by Lean Six Sigma and eliminated. So the more iterations you do with Lean Six Sigma and fine-tuning the processes, the better result you get. That's why in the name of Lean Six Sigma, the Six Sigma is the actual formula for measuring the number of defects. And Six Sigma actually signifies like it's 99.9% accurate. So like to reach Six Sigma, you have to strive. So, okay, and when it comes to application and that experience that I had is that we've been working with multiple businesses, and we help them with automation and streamlining those fulfillment processes. So I've applied Lean Six Sigma for various dropshipping businesses where they were dealing with the same kind of setup, where they had to communicate with Chinese suppliers and buy the goods. So originally it was just this interesting flow where they had all their orders exported with a CSV file. They sent it to the supplier. Then the supplier sent them back the CSV file with prices next to each item. And then they had to pay the whole invoice. What we discovered after we started inspecting is that the supplier was making mistakes, and the mistakes were always costing them some kind of lump sum of money. So when they started checking, the supplier surprisingly was sending them correct invoices from then on. So it was the interesting part that they started saving money like right out of the gate. Because whenever you have a check in place and the other side also knows that you check, well, they stop making mistakes just because like, they check. In that case, we don't make money there.
That's true no matter what quality system you develop. I worked in manufacturing, and HACCP is hazard analysis and critical control points. That's actually regulated by US government laws. And the same point there is that if you have a critical control point, like is the seal tight on your container, and you're checking that, then it's more likely to actually occur the way it is supposed to. So you do reduce errors. But those documented procedures are, some of our people have come on here and talked about EOS, which is entrepreneurial operations systems.
Oh, that
And
one. I remember. Yeah.
yes. And that helps. That's good for all sorts of businesses. So I think this can be applied in different areas. Even we do marketing even and even building websites. And part of that process, we do have standard operating procedures. So there are parts of it that you can standardize. The creative part, as far as, the design needs to be unique to the end user, that part you can't. But setting up the domain and all those other things, that can completely be standardized. So I love
Yeah,
what you
well,
said there.
the only downside with that is that usually in marketing, the tasks, they don't repeat. So you're always doing something that you haven't done before. So how many websites do you set up? Like if you're a marketing agency, that's different. Like you are almost like a manufacturer. You're
Mm-hmm.
creating websites as you would be like, I don't know, baking bread. That would be the same. Like all the time, like the design differs, the creatives differ, but it's still the same process. But if you are running something like your own e-commerce business, how many websites do you set up? One.
Right.
Like that's why Lean Six Sigma is probably not applicable, just because the nature of the tasks in marketing, they're always going to be different. And you're not going to be always launching the same campaign. You're going to be launching different ones. And that's the only argument against Lean Six Sigma probably in marketing or creative sides, just because it's not repeatable.
Right. Unless you're a marketing or creative agency. That makes
Yeah.
sense. So you took a failed business, started an e-commerce business, applied Lean Six Sigma, learned a lot of lessons, and then you came up with TrackMage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at some point, it was just inevitable because, like, I got charmed by the marketing premise that you need to serve your former self. And I said, like, yeah, well, my former self was fulfilling the goods, like communicating with suppliers, tracking the packages. Like, okay, yes, I need to build the tool for that unfortunate soul who is going to be using Excel spreadsheets to fulfill all that. And then, like, I don't know, send 300 emails to all their customers and make sure that everyone got their tracking number and all that. So I just thought that it's going to be extremely valuable. And the thing is that in China, when we were working, we already had the basis of that tool built out for our own internal use. So we had our own e-commerce store that had products from Alibaba displayed, so people could check them out and collect all their goods in their cart and then place the order. That saved me a lot of headache because previously it was just like literal negotiation through text messages in social media where people were saying like, oh, can you get that? Like, yes, we can. What about that? Yes, we can. Send me an Excel spreadsheet. Like that was the idea. And we literally started with nothing because we didn't even consider buying some system just because, well, it wasn't called for in the beginning. But right now, I think if we started right now, like all the infrastructure is so much more mature and you don't have to be very technical to operate with it. You just like literally like on Shopify, you go click one button, you have your store. And then you just customize the theme and you have your own colors, your own brand. That's it. But back in the day, Magento was the thing. So yeah, we tried uploading multiple products. Like it probably gets very slow. It used to get very slow with 10,000 products, but we wanted the whole Alibaba. Like at that point, we didn't even understand marketing, and we didn't understand that like more is not better. It was just that
Not
idea.
always.
Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. Well,
Understanding
we've
your
been through
market.
some.
Yeah, understanding your market and how many options they want or need is really important. So sounds like you learned that lesson too. Now, you signed an interesting client who does cartoons. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, yes. That's when I actually rediscovered my passion because like e-commerce business is essentially very, very boring. Like, okay, I'm selling shoes. Like what of it? Like I'm selling shoes. That's all. Or toy stores. Like I was just looking for something that can really get my heart into it. And then I noticed that one of the creators of an animated series online, they posted a video talking about their supply chain issues and that they were not able to get rid of those, I don't know, like hundreds of emails every day where the customers were asking, like, where is my comic book? And they literally described everything that TrackMage does. And I said, like, oh my God, like, guys, we were made for each other. How about you become our customer? Like it took probably like 3 or 4 emails back and forth when we had a call. And then finally we just said like, guys, we're just going to set it up for you. Feel free to use the tool. So then what happened is that we reduced the number of customer emails very significantly. I don't know, we haven't measured that, but we were dealing with all the other issues as well. So what we were dealing with is that the customers were entering their email address with typos. And whenever the customer checks out the order, we don't get even the order notification that it was placed. You can understand how people were reacting at that point, because like, oh, I paid some money and then I just didn't get anything and I don't know where it is. So first we had to fix that. We implemented the validation script that was checking if the email was actually valid. So it literally just pings the email server and checks if like, oh, this email exists. So after
That's
that,
pretty simple technology, actually.
yeah, you would think, but we didn't find any solutions on
Well, for
on the
somebody who's a
market.
developer.
Yeah, well, for a developer, that definitely is easy, but for some non-technical users, you need to install some scripts or like copy paste some code. So that's exactly what we have right now. So like we just allow you to like copy it, put it on your input where you collect emails, and forget about bounce rates, forget about any problems with people not actually getting your emails. So that was the first thing we fixed for them. The second one was the address validation. Of course, people were making mistakes. If they make mistakes in their email address, what about the shipping address? Of course, they do. And after that, what happened was that customers were not only getting less anxious, they were like significantly, like that volume of inquiries, it almost was eliminated. Well, because we haven't measured like how many emails they were getting before, but based on their very colorful description of what was happening, they were getting at least 5 emails from each customer who didn't get their email notification through different channels, like on Facebook, on on Instagram, then on email, like 5 different emails or 5 different questions from different, like from the same person, basically. So we eliminated that almost entirely. And the most important thing, that's why TrackMage actually pitches that on the front page, is that we were able to get extra sales from those customers. So when they were checking the status of the order, they actually placed new orders just because when we were waiting, we were exposed to new products that they could buy. And since this is a passionate, passion product, where people like the characters, they like the merch. That's why they were placing some emotional orders based on just like seeing something that caught their eye.
Absolutely. So you're upselling them just like McDonald's does.
Well, sort of. It's just the information they already expected to see. So this information is not treated as marketing, because when you get a notification from Amazon, for example, about the status of your order, you don't think it's marketing. You just go there and see like, oh, they shipped it. But then you are already on
Have a scrolling
Amazon.
bar.
Yes. And you have other products, of course.
Yeah, of course. And when I order Amazon, particularly groceries, it's like, oh, do you need these items? Because you've ordered them before.
Yeah, the sneaky algorithms. Yeah, they are always out there.
So, okay, as I understand it, you're approaching logistics and supply chain not from addressing the logistics and supply chain, but actually addressing the issues that are causing some of the other problems in customer service and delivery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're currently expanding it a little bit, but again, building software is challenging as it is, and I wanted to automate the whole cycle. But I was able just to automate this part with just getting customers to see the notifications all the time, and then getting them back to the store for those email notifications. And then it also improves the visibility of the whole shipment volume. Because inside of a system, you see all the shipments that are inbound, outbound, you see when they are arriving, you can identify all the problems proactively. Something like, for example, we implemented this feature just because I know how it works with Chinese suppliers. You place an order and then you wait for them to actually provide the tracking number. And we have the countdown timer that says like, okay, how many days the shipment is staying in this way. And if the supplier actually doesn't provide the tracking information before a certain date, you get notification like, okay, this shipment has a problem. How about you contact the supplier or place a different order with a different supplier? So it was a huge deal for our dropshipping customers, because they definitely want to get a refund when refund is due without having to wait until the customer refunds. because the customers are patient creatures, but not that patient.
Yes, by the time I get to the point where I am asking for my money back, I'm completely set on getting my money back, even if you can deliver it to me in the next 30 seconds. By that point, I'm just like, I'm done.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth. Like, yeah. And the effects of just improving the customer communication on this last mile, it's definitely less refund requests or less chargebacks, just because customers, when they know when the package is getting there, they feel more at ease. And that alleviates buyer anxiety because, like, again, when the person is placing an order, they are actively participating in the process. But when they are actually going and waiting for the order, they don't know how to help. That's why they start writing to customer support, like, is it there yet? This is a very frequent issue because people actively think that they are helping the package to get there faster if they ask more questions. It's almost like with managers, like if I look at them and ask them, like, when is it gonna get done? Maybe they will do it faster.
Yeah. So how hard is it to start an e-commerce business? Say I wanted to start one and I don't have any specific products to sell.
Yeah, well, everything starts from the idea what exactly you want to sell. So if you just want to start an e-commerce business and you don't have any overarching theme or a brand that you want to create, you can research on Amazon what is currently selling well. You can find some winning products, and there are like hundreds of strategies that you could use to just understand what is selling well. But that's the short-term strategy. Once you find what you actually want to do and what is the niche category that you want to serve, that's probably a better angle where you can actually brainstorm what kind of products you can serve to the specific category. So the typical example would be to sell some passion products, like products that have cat prints on them or cat-themed products overall. This is almost an endless demand from that specific category. If I bought a cat T-shirt, how about you offer me, I don't know, like some mittens that are cat-based, or some other products, or even merchandise that has just cat prints on them. So again, there is a great untapped opportunity to create a brand with its own history and its own narrative, where you can sell whatever you come up with in the same frame. So when you have a brand like Louis Vuitton, whatever they produce is going to be Louis Vuitton, and people are going to buy it just because. So that's why when you're starting a commerce business and you just want to make money, look for something that sells well. But then you have to still discover what niche you want to service and where do you want to really put your passion. So that's why I think like my passion is to service some of like media creators who have e-commerce stores, not just e-commerce stores overall. But that's a passion. I still like other e-commerce businesses, the more typical ones like dropshippers or wholesalers. They are definitely very interesting.
Okay. So I've done not e-commerce per se, but I have many years ago done a very small side hustle with, at a flea market, basically. It's still a lot of work. But with there, it's like I'm packing up and moving things around. And so the e-commerce world doesn't work that way, especially when it's paired with a fulfillment center.
Well, I would say that it's much easier to start if you have already thought through like which fulfillment center you are going to be using and which product you are going to buy. The downside of actually working with fulfillment centers is that you still have to buy the inventory. So if you don't know if the product is going to sell, it's probably too much risk to buy inventory prematurely. There was one customer in our business that actually bought how many boxes that was. I don't remember, like something like three. Well, okay. He was dealing with wooden cutlery, and he placed a huge order from China, and then received it in his fulfillment center in US. And then later, he discovered that, he set up his Shopify store, and then later he discovered he doesn't know how to sell it. From the ads, he wasn't selling it. From the some negotiations with some distribution centers and chain stores, he just came up with nothing. And that's when the inventory was actually eating up his money because the fulfillment center was still charging for restocking fees and just keeping it there in the warehouse. So before you invest into inventory, before you contract the fulfillment center, first get your sales right. And for that, dropshipping is probably an easier way to start, where you don't have to risk your own money. You just put it out there, you attract customers, then you place the orders with the actual supplier, and then they get the product and you get the margin. Like, it's probably not going to be very big, but at least you're going to get the sense that demand is there and what you are selling is going to sell. Because the typical story, like the unfortunate truth of starting an e-commerce business is that, oh, we bought 300 boxes of this an amazing supplement. Now they are staying in our garage, and I don't know when the expiration date is going to hit. And that's my e-commerce business. Thank you very much.
Yes, I have heard those stories as well. So with TrackMage, it can be connected to a dropshipper or a fulfillment center. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, TrackMage is system agnostic. So we have API, we have the CSV import. So wherever your shipment information is stored or wherever your order information is stored, we can get it. Also, we integrate with Zapier and Integrately, where you can just set it up without having to do any custom coding. You will just point and click, and the integration is going to work. So essentially, TrackMage acts as this central hub between the tools, and it has all the information plus analytics of what shipments are going where, which carrier performs best, and if you have any problems with any of those shipments that you need to take care of.
Absolutely. So what else would you like to share with us about your product before we finish for the day?
Yeah, well, actually, I would like to maybe highlight that we have wholesaler features, the things that don't typically, I haven't seen any other tool on the market provide this functionality. Essentially, wholesalers, they have a very different challenge. They need to provide a shipping update about hundreds of shipments or even thousands of shipments that belong to the same customer in the same order. We have a grouping functionality and the tracking page that displays all the shipments on the same page. And we've seen, on one of the demos, one of the customers actually selected all the shipments that she had, 2,500, and the page still loaded. I and the developer, we were just like, it worked. It worked, and it loaded everything. Then, the grouping functionality took care of scrolling and finding specific shipments. So that's the idea, because right now, a lot of wholesale businesses, they are still dealing with those CSV files, or they build some Frankenstein solutions where all the shipments are added to their CRM system as separate instances or separate files. That's a lot to handle. With wholesalers, you can literally just use a tracking page that doesn't change the link. You just send your customer this tracking page, and they don't have to ask you about those shipments anymore. It's just always there and always up to date.
That makes sense. Well, Irina, how can people find you after the podcast?
They can go to trackmage.com. That's the main website where they can find all the information and sign up if they would like to. And also, I'm on LinkedIn, so it's Irina Podubna with AIA in the end, because there are other variations. So it's me. And you can find TrackMage by TrackMage on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. And we'll make sure that those links are in the show notes so people can find you. And even if they don't know how to spell your last name, we'll make sure it's there and they can just click the link. All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You have been a great guest today. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me for today's Nurture Small Business podcast, where the focus is on business growth, technology, and people strategies to help your business thrive. At DCA Virtual Business Support, our focus is making your business operations run smooth so you can focus on growth. Reach out to me at Denise@dcavirtual.com if you'd like to learn more.